Windrose, sailing in Malta. I was born in Vladivostok. Vladimir Golovnev, bowman. So that's where my love for yacht sailing comes from. But looking at this painting every day in my office is another inspiration to me. When you look at the raging sea, well, maybe not at this shipwreck, that's a bit too extreme, you can't help but feel inspired. And all you can think of is the sea. The sea has always been a man's major attraction. Since the beginning of time, this cradle of life has been tempting the bravest and strongest of men to risk their lives and take a step towards the unknown, all to discover new lands with treasure and seek fame. To this day, it's only been those who are strong in spirit who can withstand the power of nature. No wonder offshore races are so popular among people who are mature and accomplished. What is the formula of success in business? I think you constantly need to challenge yourself, refine your skills, and dedicate most of your time to work hard. A sailing race is basically the same because both of these activities involve a lot of uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There is no constancy. Sailing is all about time and result, which is why it's so much like business. Only the people who can not only motivate, but also effectively manage their team can lead it to victory. Ilganis Baladis, boat skipper. Sergey and I were taking part in one of regatta yacht charters, and we thought we might try something more serious. So we thought, how about Middle Sea Race? Sergey Bigansky, helmsman. This year, Elganis and I decided to do Rolex Middle Sea Race. When we were talking about sponsorship, I said I knew just the right person. The person who wanted to do that, and whom I trusted completely. I gave Vladimir Alexandrovich a call and he immediately said yes. So that was decided from the very start. I trust him because I knew he would ride the storm and finish the race. That's how our Project Vostok service came to life. Boat type, Arshambu A40, year built 2004, length overall 11.99 meters, mast height 14.73 meters. Perhaps every man wants to try doing something masculine at some point. Some people aspire to climb mountains, and some strive to win in athletics. When I was younger, I said to myself, I'd run a marathon when I turned 45. So I did the London Marathon, although I was never a professional runner before. I like to test my abilities and achieve results. That's important to me. I hope our boat fares well. We have good chances at that. A great boat, fantastic crew, and a very experienced skipper. It's important to finish a race like that. The 608-mile Rolex Middle Sea Race has arguably one of the most scenic race courses. It starts from Grand Harbor in Malta's capital Valletta, under the walls of Fort Sant'Angelo. Shots of its cannon signal the start of the race for each of 6 boat groups. Over 100 of yachts sail towards the Strait of Messina, heading north along the eastern coast of Sicily. In good weather, one can see the largest active volcano in Europe, Mountain Etna. Once through the strait, the course heads north to Stromboli, another active volcano, and then turns west to Egadi Islands. Passing between Marittimo and Favignana, the crews leave Pantelleria to port and head to Lampedusa. The final leg of the race course ends at the Royal Malta Yacht Club's harbor, where every successful crew gets their finishing time. For many it may sound much like a tourist activity or a pleasure trip, but it turns out quite the contrary in real life. Gleb Sulev, helmsman. This course is really challenging. I raced in Rolex Duralia and Fastnet before, and these 600-mile races are some of the toughest in terms of distance, weather, sea currents, tactics, and navigation. Middle Sea Race is always a tough race. This regatta has never been easy for the crews. I was lucky enough to be a part of 3 Rolex events. This is my 3rd one. I can say that if a half of the world's population dream about sailing, then a half of salesmen dream to get on Rolex Middle Sea Race. Not every man has the opportunity, and not every man can endure it. An amateur race usually lasts for 5-6 hours, 7 hours at most. A non-stop offshore race with a course over 1,000 kilometers can take an average of up to 150 hours. Many want to try, but I got to do it for real. The 600-mile Rolex race is open both for amateurs and professionals. Most of our crew members were amateurs who work elsewhere. I'm the only one on the boat who does it for a living. The crew was assembled a few days before the race start. Everyone came with hands-on experience, but never as one team. So it was a challenge for me as their skipper to make them work together as a team to finish the race. As we were sailing, we were dividing our roles and duties. Who's going to be the bowman and who's taking the helm? Of course, these things should be arranged beforehand. In the end, we all made a good team, but the race was already finished by that time. Everyone was at his own place, doing his best. Everyone was at his own place, doing his best. And I think that was one of our crew's greatest advantages. And it was what we were hoping for. The teamwork really paid off when our boat started to broach. Everyone was focused on their job, trying to do their best, and there was no panic at all. All orders were followed and things fixed on time. So we pulled it off in the end. The cannon shot is where it all begins. Everything that leads up to the race and final boat preparations are left behind. Let's go aft. Here we go. 608 miles ahead, no turning back. The final result is down to every member of the crew. Starboard. Halyard. Faster, faster. The crew left the harbor and reached the first turning point in the groove. The fleet started spreading out to keep with their tactics and boat speed performances. As soon as we're offshore, we're going this way, using the tactics we agreed on. In the end, the finishing time of every boat will be adjusted to her total score. Crossing the final straight first does not mean ranking first. That's the rule of a handicap race. Boat sailing is great on any boat basically, but to sail in the Middle Sea Race, your boat has to be at least 10 meters long. This is an offshore race with IRC/ORC rating system, so that evens the odds out a bit. You can sail a small or big boat, depends on how you fare. I believe every boat was born to sail, but sometimes the crew can keep her from that. The race start order allows smaller and slower boats to go first, which lets one marvel at the latest advances in yacht design. With wind going down now, it's much harder to steer the boat. It's already late night when the crew makes it to the southern coast of Sicily. It started out well, with average wind, but then it went to zero. I've sailed here many times like that. The hardest weather condition is zero wind. It wears you out, psychologically. It's harder than to sail through a storm because you don't even get your adrenaline rush. The toughest for me is definitely dead calm. Richard waits foremost hand. The most challenging part is sailing in zero wind when the boat is still. There's nothing you can do to get her moving. As soon as you've got wind, you're good to go. Even with no wind, there was a lot of work to do on the boat. The crew needed to keep the maximum speed and do repairs of damaged sails. I need a flat surface. First impressions were shared. We've got an amazing crew, all great guys here. Not so lucky with the wind though. We hope it changes soon. Going steady now. We've got a great crew and a positive mood. The rest should follow. The boss says the boat needs attention, so it's time to work. No wind conditions continued for the most of the day. With wind picking up slightly in the afternoon, Vostok service was only able to get to the strait at nightfall. This was the first serious challenge that eliminated a part of the fleet from the race. Going into the strait and racing along one of the hardest sea routes is a very tough task for any yachtsman. Here everything's down to the crew tactics, course accuracy, and following orders of your skipper. That is what really matters. The Strait of Messina has always been a tough obstacle for sailors. Famous Odyssey was the first man to sail through it. He actually spent 17 years to finish the course we're making now in this Middle Sea Race. You have to fight the countercurrent in that calm. Our boat was going 4 knots, but we were actually going back 2 knots. Because the speed of current was 6 knots. It was like playing a game of chess against other boats, with all the reshuffling and bypassing. It was crazy. About 10% of the fleet leaves the race in the strait every year. As soon as the boat left the giant eddies and tricky currents of Messina behind, the rain started. The first sign of a storm brewing, and it wasn't long in coming. We all knew very well what was to expect. We didn't know when. We thought it would hit us soon, give or take a day, but never expected it to be so big. I was born in Vladivostok, so I always felt at ease with the sea. For many people it's more of a tourist destination. For me it's like being in my element. Living in Moscow makes me forget a little, but only until I'm back at sea. Lucky weather! It's usually all go after the strait. We had very strong wind, 62 knots. That's what true wind speed was, about 120 kilometers per hour. And I have never seen such a high sea ever before. That was the first time I was sailing in weather like this. Never before I saw such wind or waves that high. And I've sailed for 30 years. The course leg to Stromboli proved to be a real testing of human character, as well as sailing equipment. The stormy sea showed its fierce nature, moving even experienced sailors to awe. I've heard stories about killer waves. With all the climate change, you can only rely on short-term forecasts. And there are a lot of anomalies never seen before, like these waves. Right before the storm, our boat was hit by wind on one side and by waves from the other. The biggest waves come out of nowhere. We had to face one of them this time. We were lucky to have Gleb as our helmsman, because the wave came in sideways and it was massive. I've been sailing this race for 6 years. And have never seen anything like it. I have honestly never experienced a storm like this before. In conditions like that, crew members have to show their spine. It's no easy job to joke when you're fighting 15-meter waves. I'd like to say hello to all my colleagues at Vostok Service. We're having a meeting in our office here. On the agenda today is how to make it to the volcano. The real hardships were still ahead. Denis Karablov, bowman. I was having a cabin rest after my watch, and I could hear us sailing at good speed, about 9 knots or more. Gleb was steering the wheel. I kept hearing wave incoming, then a loud thud. That was fun. The sail was basically lying on the water. The boat was on her beam ends. It's lucky no one fell overboard. And frankly, we didn't have any time to panic. It was a truly scary moment for all of us. At that point, we were only thinking of each other's safety, helping out each other. The fear sank in later, when we were able to sail again. I was scared when people who sailed races like that many times before said we could only pray to get out of it. Then I started to worry a bit. But actually, we calculated our risks before, so we were set to come back no matter what. Although the wave impact didn't break the spirit, it did cause damage to the equipment. The crew had to keep steering with most of their life rafts washed overboard. Richard Omanbridis, helmsman. You could say the wave threw us off the course. Our steering wheel broke, so we had to use the secondary one and steer in complete darkness. All signal was lost in strong wind, so we couldn't use a single transducer. Our skipper said we should try to survive the night and think of something in the morning. So it was. Apart from all electronic devices and steering wheel, the crew had problems with the spare engine. The only way out possible was to rely on sails alone and fix the boat on the go. 2/3 of the race course were still to be tackled. But wind speed is down to normal storm force now, so the crew can finally have some rest and hot food. Don't fill it up. The next part of the race resembled a battle against nature rather than a yacht competition. The crew members managed to fix the boat, but treated it with extra caution, avoiding any risky maneuvering. Vostok Service was floating in the heart of a big storm for 3 full days. The day after, the wind finally started to die down. Dennis and I were on the night watch. Gleb at the steering wheel. Our skipper came on the deck and pointed out all our mistakes. The sail was stumbling. How did the night go? Wonderful. When the boat is heeling over, it's important to find a comfortable position. I set the wing mast, but it didn't help a lot. As soon as the boat was back in signal range, the crew were checking on other boats who were not able to make it through the storm. "49 boats so far. Is that how many are left?" Out of 130 boats, 49 dropped out. That's a lot. That leaves about 80 in. On the way to Malta, another surprise awaited. Wind suddenly changed speed and direction, delaying the final leg for another 6 hours. The crew passed the finished gate in the early hours of morning. They spent offshore a total of 4 days, 15 hours and 17 minutes. The boat came 29th out of 95 remaining contestants. I hope this competition gives me the drive I'm after. It's a serious, manly thing to do. A lot will depend on the skipper and teamwork. A lot will depend on wind, our tactics, and our luck. It's a whole adventure to take. It's a whole adventure to take. Here at sea, we say that after such hard weather conditions, everyone who made it back is a winner. Even if they didn't finish, they could find their way back to port. So that's a win already. And then there were the best among the winners. We could finish, so we made it to the list. The most important result, though, is that all crews were back safely, with no one missing. That's what matters most of all. When you cross the finish line, you feel on cloud 9, of course. If you look your cruise mates in their eyes, you'll definitely see something has changed. Sea changes people, that's true. You know what you are and what you want better. When you finish a race like Middle Sea Race, your place and time doesn't really matter. If you win, it's an amazing accomplishment. But if you're finished, that's a win in itself. To me, finishing means winning a place too. I know we can do it. Vostok service is not giving up. In the end, it's not about sailing or sea or the race. It's all about your attitude to life. A challenge like this is a breath of fresh air. For people who spend most of their time in the four walls of their comfortable offices. Here it's all simple. A man is a man. A friend's hand is help when you need it. It's all about team spirit and professionalism. Things that nowadays seem to have lost their importance. That's it, really. Every man has to be a real man. Voiceover by Contentica Company for Content Union.